and gentlemen, and welcome back into another edition of Keytime Sports. Please like, comment, share, subscribe to Keytime Sports right here on YouTube. Go and follow Key City Sports on Instagram. Also, follow the Key on millions.co. We are also selling merch on millions.co. So make sure you go over there and get you some merchandise. Now, we got college football week 2 is about to start tomorrow. The first game I'm going to cover is the Michigan Wolverines, number 15 Michigan Wolverines, versus the number 18 Oklahoma Sooners. Now, here is the Michigan Wolverines roster when it comes to their offense. I'm going to give everybody a good 10 to 15 seconds to look at their entire offensive roster and defense. Here is the Michigan defense. Here's the rest of the Michigan defense. Here's the Michigan Wolverines special teams, and they are led by head coach Sharon Moore. But Sharon Moore, he will be serving a 2-game suspension for his affiliate and his involvement, his involvement in the Connor Stallions Jim Harbaugh cheating scandal that rocked Michigan a couple of years back during their championship run. But outside of that, as far as statistic wise, there was a game last week where statistically, Brian Underwood, he had 21 of 31, 251 yards, a completion percentage of 67.7%, and his longest pass was 39 yards. And that was against New Mexico Labos. Now, we all know that New Mexico isn't really a formidable opponent to measure your success up against. So that's why tomorrow, this Saturday, Oklahoma versus Michigan, that is a late night game, and that is almost the last big game of the day. Now, one thing I can say about it is Michigan's offense. Let's see how they fare against top-notch competition, because Oklahoma is, I'm going to say, top-notch competition. They're ranked for a reason. Now, Oklahoma, they didn't play nobody last week. It's just a run-of-the-mill team, group of 5 school, and they pretty much put up 50, 60 points on them. So both of these teams really didn't play nobody in the first week, so we are going to get our first action to see how they play up against quality competition when they face each other. So when we get to the Oklahoma Sooners, they played Illinois State. Now, like I said, Illinois State, they are not a formidable opponent, so you can't judge your offense or your defense against a opponent that is not superior. So Illinois State, we all knew that was going to be an automatic win. Let's see how Oklahoma fares against Michigan. Now, here's the Oklahoma Sooners roster for their offense for the Oklahoma Sooners. Here is the rest of the Oklahoma Sooners offense. Here's the Oklahoma Sooners defense. Here's the rest of the Oklahoma Sooners defense. Here's the Oklahoma Sooners special teams, and they are led by head coach Brett Venables. Now, statistically, in week 1, we know that John Matter, he was 30 of 37, 392 yards, completion percentage of 81.1. His longest pass was 48 yards. He had touchdown interception ratio 3-1, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. So he had a pretty good game, but it was against competition that's not superior. So, one thing about the Oklahoma Sooners, we just judging them off of one game. First game, 35 points, and the Sooners, they are projected to be one of the best offenses in college football. And you can see third down efficiency was 40% last week. Also, fourth down efficiency was 66% last week because they went for it twice. They went for it 3 times on fourth down and got it twice. Now, for the Michigan Wolverines, their statistics when it comes to third down offense, their third down offense was 46%. So a little bit better than Oklahoma's last week, but hey, it's just the first game. Last week was just the first game. Fourth down efficiency, they were 0 of 1, but they didn't really need the fourth down in the game because they had the lead for 95% of the game. Then you have passing, rushing for the Wolverines, which was pretty effective. They cracked over 200 yards, but you playing against New Mexico, so you really supposed to score every time when you go down the field against a team that is not on your level. I'm just gonna say it. There are some college football teams when when top-notch schools play group of 5 schools, it should be a blowout no matter what. It should be. And offensively last week for Michigan Wolverines, 65 plays. So pretty much Michigan Wolverines and the Oklahoma Sooners are in the same boat. Here are the statistics for the Oklahoma Sooners as far as offensively. Passing, we already knew the quarterback. I said it a few minutes ago. 30 of 37, 392 yards. Rushing, they cracked over 100 yards, which is always complimentary to a dominant passing game. Offensively, they ran 70 plays. Then the penalties, and like I always say, penalties and turnovers and poor clock management can hurt a football team. Those are the 3 things that I am going to be harping on this season, whether it's college football or pro football. 3 things: turnovers, clock mismanagement, and also penalties. Now, one thing about it, I don't expect this to be a penalty filled game, but one thing I can say is that this is one of the biggest matchups of week 2, and it's the only game that is between 2 ranked teams in week 2. So I'm not going to say that week 2, as far as the matchup predictor, it's a little bit cold, but hey, this is the one game that I know everybody is going to want to see because it's between 2 ranked teams, and whoever loses, somebody is going to drop in the rankings from this game. I don't know who's going to win. I'm going to give my prediction later on in the show, but I know somebody is going to drop in the rankings. Now, storylines for this game. Michigan Wolverines, number 15 Michigan Wolverines 1-0. Number 18 Oklahoma Sooners 1-0. Oklahoma is right now a 5.5-point favorite. How to watch it? ABC. Key statistics for the Oklahoma offense. Last season, They average 495 yards, 23rd in college football. Passing, 392 yards, 6th in college football last season. Rushing, 103 yards, 100th in college football last season. Scoring, 35 points, 47th in college football last season. The Oklahoma defense. Oklahoma defense overall, 151 yards allowed, 12th in college football. Passing, 34 yards per game, 2nd in college football last season. Rushing, 103 yards last season. Well, 70th per game, 70th in college football last season. And scoring for the Oklahoma Sooners defense, 3 points per game, average, 11th in college football last season. Now let's shift on over to the Michigan Wolverines offense. Overall yardage per game, offensive yardage, 452 yards, 41st in college football last season. Passing, 251 yards, passing, 445th in college football last season. Rushing, 201 yards rushing, 42nd in college football last season. Scoring, 34 points per game last season, 50th in college football last season. That is the Michigan offense. The Michigan Wolverines defense, 267 yards allowed, 51st in college football last season. Passing, 217 yards, 87th in college football last season. 201 yards per game, 18th in college football last season. Scoring, 17 points per game, 69th in college football last season. Here is some more statistics for Oklahoma and Michigan. Oklahoma is 6th in defensive third down percentage, allowing opponents to convert on 9.1% of their third downs. Oklahoma ranks 115th in the FBS with a negative 2 turnover margin compared to Michigan's 11th ranked +2 margin. Michigan ranks 103rd in the FBS, averaging 65 penalty yards per game compared to Oklahoma's 34th ranked 35 penalty yards per game on average. Both teams have strong red zone offenses, each scoring 100% of their trips to lead the FBS. Michigan is 101st in the FBS with an average time possession of 26 minutes 58 seconds compared to Oklahoma's 43rd ranked average of 32 minutes and 56 seconds. Team leaders from last season for the Oklahoma Sooners and Michigan Wolverines. Oklahoma passing John Matter, 392 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. This is his play from last week. Rushing, Torrey Blaylock, 44 yards, 8 carries, 1 touchdown. Receiving, Keontez Lewis, 119 yards on 9 catches and 2 TDs for the Michigan Wolverines. Bryce Underwood, 251 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions, 67.7 completion percentage. Rushing, Justice Haynes, 159 yards on 16 carries, 3 touchdowns. Receiving, Marlon Kellen, 93 yards, 6 catches, 1 TD. Last game that the Wolverines and the Oklahoma Sooners played. Oklahoma beat Illinois State Saturday 55-3. Michigan won 34-17 over New Mexico labels. So I said that earlier in the show. So now, when we get to this game, we already know who is favored. Now, everybody is wondering who am I going to predict to win this game? I have to say the Oklahoma Sooners. I do. I just have to because right now the point spread clearly states that the Oklahoma Sooners is a 5.5 point favorite. And one thing, I was wrong. I was wrong on some of these games in week one, but I got the kind of confidence that Oklahoma is going to hold serve in their home stadium. And Michigan, I'm going to tell you, Michigan, they are going to have a tough time trying to stop the Oklahoma Sooners effectively tomorrow night. They are. So I got Oklahoma in this game. I got the Boomer Sooner in this game. And I believe that they will win this game. They will also cover. They will win this game by a touchdown or more. The next game I am going to cover is the Battle of Iowa. Iowa Hawkeyes versus the Iowa State Cyclones. Now, for the Iowa Hawkeyes, here is their roster, led by Hank Brown, Ryan Fitzgerald, Mark Gronowski, excuse me. Wow, the Iowa State Hawkeyes, they have five quarterbacks on their roster. And the limit is six. Excuse me, they do, yeah, the Iowa Hawkeyes do have six quarterbacks on their roster. For the Iowa Hawkeyes, I believe they have too many quarterbacks on their roster. But that's nor here nor there. Here's the rest of the Iowa Hawkeyes roster: offense, defense, and special teams. Here is the rest of the Iowa Hawkeyes defense. Here is the rest of the defense for the Iowa Hawkeyes. Long list here, people. And here's the Iowa Hawkeyes special teams, led by Kirk French. Kirk French. So statistically, the Iowa Hawkeyes, they have been one of the worst offenses in college football the last couple of years. But last week they scored over 30 points. They had a 30 burger. So one thing about third down offense last week for the Iowa Hawkeyes, it was 62%. Fourth down efficiency, 100%. So fourth down, if they go for it on fourth down, they get it every time. Now, even though it was one game, I'm not going to take much away from that one game because they were playing illegitimate competition. And you already know how I like to say that if you're not playing against superior competition, it doesn't matter. The group of five schools, I'm going to say the teams that play in the Central USA Conference, that don't count when you are a top college. You are supposed to be a Central USA Conference college by 30 or 40 points because they don't belong on the same field as you. They don't. But one thing I can say is Iowa and Iowa State, they know how each other plays. We see this on a year-to-year basis. And one thing I can say about the Iowa State Cyclones, they was just in the college football playoff last season. And Rico Beck, he is a guy that can throw the football all over the field. We saw what he did against Kansas State last week, Kansas State Wildcats. I mean, for the first half of that game, Iowa State Cyclones, they were not able to generate any offense. But in the second half, things started clicking. And the Iowa State Cyclones, they won that game. Now they riding that momentum from beating a ranked team at the time because Kansas State was ranked number 22. Now they done fallen out the rankings. Iowa State is 16 now. So let's see what Iowa State can do with Iowa. Now, do I expect this to be a close game? Yes, I do. I do expect this to be a close game. And here's the roster for the Iowa State Cyclones. Now, one thing I can say, Iowa State and Iowa, I believe this is going to be a defensive game. I really do, because as of right now, currently the Iowa State Cyclones are a 2.5 point favorite, but that might change in a few hours, because between now and tomorrow, we all know that when it comes to those sports books, they like to fluctuate the points 12, 15 hours before the game. So we already know that. But as far as the defense concerned, both defenses are top notch. I believe this game is going to come down to whoever turns the ball over the least will be able to win, because I could see this game being a turnover fest. I mean, both teams having two or three turnovers here and there, and Iowa State walking off on a field goal, having a walk-off field goal. But one thing I can say is the defense for the Iowa State Cyclones is much, much better than it was last season. Because last season, they gave up 30 points almost every game. And you could see that with the statistics. The statistics of this team, Iowa State Cyclones, team statistics, as far as points per game, 48.5 points. This was last season. This is not counting what they did in Dublin, Ireland, just a week and a half ago. That it doesn't count. But Iowa State has the better offense. Iowa State has the better defense. They are a 2.5 point favorite right now currently, and I expect the Iowa State Cyclones to win this game. Now, here is key storylines for this game. That's where I come in at, give you the key storylines. Iowa 1-0. Iowa State, number 16, Iowa State 2-0. Iowa State is favored by 3.5. 3 points. Right now, it just went up. Iowa State's offense. Iowa State overall 421 yards per game, 55 in college football last season. 244.5 yards per game last season, 53rd in college football. Rushing 176.5 yards per game last season. That was 60th in college football. Scoring 39.5 points per game, which was 38th in college football last season. The Iowa State defense, overall 296 yards allowed, 57th in college football last season. Passing 199.5 yards per game, 81st in college football last season. Rushing 176.5 yards per game, 52nd in college football last season. Scoring 14 points per game allowed last season, 58th in college football. Now, that is for the Iowa State defense. Now, Iowa's offense, Iowa Hawkeyes, 358 yards per game on offense, 78th in college football last season. Passing, 48 yards. See, this is what I'm saying. The passing game is not good for the Hawkeyes. So that's where I have my trepidation when it comes to the Hawkeyes taking over this game, passing wise. But that's nor here nor there. Rushing, 310 yards per game, 8th in college football last season, scoring 34 points per game. 50th in college football last season. That's the Iowa Hawkeyes offense. Iowa Hawkeyes defense. Overall, 177 yards per game allowed, 17th in college football. Passing, 134 yards per game allowed, in 35th in college football last season. Rushing, 310 yards per game, 12th in college football last season. Scoring 7 points per game in college football last season, which was 20th. Iowa, here's some more stat lines that everybody should take into consideration. Iowa ranks 19th in third down defensive percentage, allowing opponents to convert 62.5% of the time. Iowa State ranks 41st on offense, converting 50% of their third downs. 50%. Iowa is 98th in college football FBS with a -1 turnover margin compared to Iowa State's 11th ranked +2 margin. Both teams avoid getting penalized. Iowa State is 10th in FBS, averaging 17.5 penalty yards per game. Iowa ranks 13th with a 20-yard average. So these two teams, they don't get penalized often. Iowa leads the FBS in red zone offense, scoring 100% of their trips. So every time this season, they have scored on their trips. Both teams rank high in time of possession. Iowa State is 18th in FBS with an average time of possession of 34 minutes and 35 seconds, while Iowa Hawkeyes rank average is 36 minutes and 37 seconds. Team leaders, Iowa State passing, Rico Beck, 461 yards, 5 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 68.8 completion percentage. Rushing, Carson Hansen, 90 yards on 25 carries, 0 touchdowns. Brett Elkinson, 123 yards on 5 catches and 1 touchdown for Iowa. Now, Iowa Hawkeyes, they don't have a passing game, so you're not gonna get too many highlight plays with the Iowa Hawkeyes. Passing, Mark Ganowski, 44 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions, completion percentage of 53.3. Rushing, Xavier Williams, 122 yards, 11 carries, 1 TD. Receiving, Jacob Gill, 13 yards on 1 catch, 0 touchdowns. Last game, Iowa State defeated South Dakota. Illegitimate competition, 55-7. Iowa won 34-7 over Albany last weekend. Illegitimate competition. So both teams played illegitimate competition. Now we're going to see how they measure up against each other. I got the Iowa State Cyclones winning this game. It's going to be a tight game. I'm expecting either a walk-off field goal or a touchdown in the end for the Iowa State Cyclones. The last game I am going to talk about, and this game is flying under the radar. It's not getting too much nationwide recognition, but I am going to give it the recognition that it deserves. It is Baylor and them SMU Mustangs, which is number 17th in the rankings right now. So for the Baylor Bears, here is their offense, their offensive roster. Here is the rest of the Baylor Bears offense. Here is the Baylor Bears defense. Now, when it comes to that defense for Baylor, oh, they got some problems. I can say that. because they were not able to stop Auburn at all last week. They weren't. They weren't able to stop Auburn, and I don't think they are going to be able to stop SMU. Need I remind everybody, SMU made it to the college football playoff last year. Baylor, they got trouble. Baylor's head coach is Dave and Randa. So, statistic wise, when it comes to the Baylor Bears, you have a quarterback, Sam Robertson. When it comes to 27 of 48, 419 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. As far as a team, Baylor, they are averaging 24 points per game. If you are going to be a high scoring offense, you're going to have to score more than just 24 points per game. Now, this is still early in the season, America, so please don't nobody overreact because we are just in week 2. But by the time week 6 and week 7 gets here, then that would be the time to say, okay, my team just don't have it this year. We can come back next year, dust ourselves off, and try and do better going into next season. But as of right now, everybody fan base in college football is excited. Either you're 1-0 or you are 0-1 right now. For the Baylor Bears, third down efficiency was terrible last week, 33%. Fourth down efficiency, 50% last week. Now, they did play Auburn last week. And I mean, Auburn, they ran the hell out of the ball. I'm going to tell you, Auburn's offense, as far as a whole, last week, had 300 yards rushing on a Baylor defense that couldn't stop a flood. Now, when you hear those numbers, when it comes to the Baylor defense, do you have any confidence? And I'm just saying this for Baylor Bear fans, anybody who support the Baylor Bears, do you have any kind of confidence that Baylor is going to stop an SMU offense that was able to average over 30 points last season en route to the college football playoff? Now, y'all see that and just like when it comes to the SMU Mustangs, just last week they scored 42 points. They scored 42 points, and the Baylor Bears allowed 38 points. So something got to give. Whether we going to be in an offensive shootout, it might be that way in this game, but I'm not expecting an offensive shootout. When it comes to the SMU Mustangs roster, we all know that they have 4 quarterbacks on the roster. Here is the rest of the SMU Mustangs roster. Here is the SMU Mustangs defense. And here is the rest of the SMU Mustangs defense. And we ended with their special teams, and their head coach is Rehet Lashali. Now, one thing about the SMU Mustangs, last week, like I said a few seconds ago, last week, they scored 42 points. Baylor Bears defense allowed 38 points in a loss last night. In a loss last week. I don't think the Baylor Bears are going to be able to stop the SMU Mustangs effectively. I just don't. So here's some key storylines and key stats going into this game. Baylor Bears 0-1. Number 17 SMU Mustangs 1-0. How to watch this game? The CW. Key statistics: SMU offense averaged 400 yards of offense last season. 62nd in college football last season. Passing 260 yards. 37th in college football last season. Rushing 140 yards. 77th in college football last season. Scoring 42 points per game. 31st in college football last season. And Right now, they are averaging 42 points after just one game. The SMU defense, now this is just after one game, and they're pretty much going off of statistics that happened last season, since this is just one game and we still early in the season. SMU defense, 351 yards per game, 88th in college football. Passing, 244 yards per game, 101st in college football last season. Rushing, 140 yards per game, 60th in college football. Scoring, 13th points per game, 53rd in college football. This is basically going off of last week now. The Baylor offense, this is last week's statistics for the Baylor offense. 483 yards per game, 28th in college football. Passing, 419 yards, second in college football. Rushing, 64 yards, 126 in college football. The Russian attack is bad. There are 133 college football teams in college football. And with you being ranked 126 in rushing in college football, that's bad in and of itself. Scoring 24 points per game, 74th in college football right now. The Baylor defense is downright terrible. Overall, 415 yards per game, 108th in college football. Passing, 108 yards per game, 23rd in college football. Rushing, 64 yards per game in college football, 131st. Scoring, 38 points per game, 120th in college football. Baylor ranks 113th in FBS college football in defensive third down percentage, allowing opponents to convert 50% of their third downs. SMU ranks 126 in the FBS with 84 penalty yards per game. SMU ranks 112th in FBS in red zone offense, scoring 50% on their trips. Baylor's red zone defense is 56 at 100%. SMU is 132nd in FBS in average time of possession, meaning that they are the worst college football team when it comes to time of possession, which they only have the ball 21 minutes in the game. 21 minutes and 1 second. Team leaders for SMU and Baylor. SMU passing, Kevin Jennings, 260 yards, 2 TDs, 1 interception, 73.3 completion percentage. Rushing, Chris Johnson Jr., 44 yards on 6 carries, 1 touchdown receiving. Romello Brinson, 121 yards on 7 catches, 1 TD. The Baylor Bears passing, Sawyer Robertson, 419 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 56.3% completion percentage. Rushing, Bryson, Washington, 54 yards on 14 carries, 0 TDs. Receiving, Cole Wilson, 134 yards on 8 catches, 0 TDs. Last game, SMU won 42-13 over East Texas A&M on Saturday. Baylor fell to Auburn 38-24 last Friday. So that is where both teams stand to this point. I expect a close game, but if the game becomes a blowout, it will be because Baylor has turned the ball over. It will be because of that. Now, one thing I'm going to go back over and give everybody a refresher of who I picked when it comes to the games to watch out for college football week 2. I got the Michigan Wolverines versus Oklahoma Sooners. I got Oklahoma Sooners winning that game, and Michigan will drop from number 15, down to maybe number 20 or number 21. Number 16, Iowa State Cyclones versus Iowa. I got the Iowa State Cyclones winning on a walk-off field goal or either a touchdown. And the final game that I just covered, Baylor versus number 17, them SMU Mustangs. I got the SMU Mustangs winning this game by a touchdown, if not a blowout, because we all know that the Baylor Bears cannot stop anybody on defense. They give up over 400 yards a game. This is dating back to last season and also last week. They almost gave up 40 points last week. So I have no confidence in the Baylor Bears defense whatsoever. I have no confidence in their offense. So the SMU Mustangs, you at home. This is your first home game of the season. You need to come out and dominate and let everybody know that last season wasn't a fluke by us putting you all in the college football playoff. And with that, those are my predictions and odds for college football for week 2 of the college football season. Please like, comment, share, subscribe to Keytime Sports right here on YouTube. Go on over to Key City Sports on Instagram. I'm about to do a reaction show to last night's NFL Thursday night football game between Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles. Also, one last thing. Please go over to millions.co. We have live merchandise over there. Get you a hoodie, get you a shirt. I know it's about to get chilly out here for most people in America. So go on over there and get you a hoodie. Go ahead and help out Keytime Sports, Key City Sports, and the Key on millions.com. .co, excuse me. One last thing, everybody. Remember, the key is always on time.